Okay, cool. All right. Welcome to the Flyte Community Sync. My name is Martin Stein. I'm with Union and I'm your host. Yes, I'm a new face. It's my first time hosting the Community Sync, so I'm super excited about that. If you have any feedback, don't hesitate. Slag it to me, direct message me the feedback. Looking forward to make this very engaging. And with that, let's go to the agenda today. We have a packed agenda. I think it's going to go 50 minutes today. Community highlights. It's about 15 minutes. We're going to have Ketan talk about the roadmap. And then we have about 20 to 30 minutes on demos and presentations. Let's talk about the next slide, community highlights, and one more, and get to know your contributors. So we want to do something very new, which is highlight the contributors in our community sync. This time, we actually selected the contributors of the month, Eugene and Nick, and we're going to give both a minute or two to basically talk about their contributions, where they work, why they got started with Flyte, and basically what they have been on lately, specifically to the contributions. So let's get started, move forward, have Eugene. Eugene is actually our software engineer at Union AI. Hey, Eugene, you're contributor of the month. So tell us a little bit about what got you into Flyte and what was your contribution to get you the contributor of the month award.
Hello. Yeah, thanks for this opportunity. Yeah, I just joined Union AI recently, and I graduating from University of Washington with computer science degree. And yeah, I just found Flyte online and then start contributing to the open source community. And I think Flyte is powerful, and they also support a good UI with Flyte console to make the debug and also monetize all the Flyte tests that I think is pretty interesting. So what I'm been contributing is just making the console dashboard become more user friendly to improve the UI and UX, and I will continue to work on that. So if you guys have any feedback on the Flyte console UI UX, can also feel free to ping me on that. Yep.
Awesome. Hey, Eugene, thanks. So if there's any questions for Eugene, reach out to him. Happy to have you there. And with that, let's go forward and talk to Nick. So Nick, your site, obviously, tell us a little bit where you work, Black Shark AI. I think the community knows about Black Shark AI, what you're doing there, and what got you started with Flyte, number two, and what was your contribution? Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the invitation. As already said, I work at Black Shark AI. For the people who don't know Black Shark, we basically generate a 3D digital twin of the whole world, mostly from satellite imagery. And we heavily rely on Flyte for that, for our machine learning pipelines and our processes. And I've recently joined Black Shark. I joined it about 2 months ago. Since we have decided as a company that while what is already provided as the open source version of Flyte is amazing, there is still a lot of changes that we want to do to Flyte, and we figured why not just have someone dedicated to that working inside the company that's improving Flyte, contributing back to the main open source repositories, and just not just making use of the open source community, but giving something back. So I have I'm in a very nice situation that I can do some open source contributions while being paid for it, which is the optimal way. So yeah, I'm a Go developer by trade. I will mostly be working on the Go components of Flyte itself. And yeah, as a starter, the main contributions I'd say was trying to improve the getting started experience as a developer of Flyte. Like I tried to improve the local setup of Flyte components. I tried to improve some of the documentation generation, and I also added a little override so you can mark your tasks as interruptible for a single execution, because that is something that we've been using or will be using on spot instances.
That's awesome. So I assume people can reach out to you and get a hold of you on Slack.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm both as my full name and my GitHub username on there as well.
Awesome, great, very cool. Thanks a lot for the contribution. We're super happy to have you dedicated also to open source. That's fantastic, great. Okay, cool, let's go forward and talk about Samita's blog post about MLOps with Flyte. Samita, why don't you tell us a little bit about what the blog post is and who should read it?
Yep, sure. Hey everyone. So this blog post dives into the struggles that production ML users face and explores how Flyte could be the go-to tool to bridge the gap between machine learning and engineering. So to give you all a rough idea, the blog post starts with what DevOps is and why MLOps isn't the same as DevOps or is a superset of DevOps. In there, I outline the expectations and challenges of machine learning models during the development and deployment phases. And the next part of the blog post is about Flyte, dive into the ML specific features it offers and how it could be used to engineer the ML pipelines effectively. And I have also included a step-by-step guide on how one could adopt Flyte for their machine learning workflows. So yeah, I would like to thank Martin and Matthew for helping me out with ideation and copy editing. So the article is on MLOps community blog. Do give it a read and let us know what you think of it. Thank you.
Awesome, great article, Samita. And you're going to speak. We're going to get to this in a second in Chennai at the conference. So it's going to be a little bit more who's in India and who can actually speak with you, gets a lot more insights there. Cool. So let's talk about UnionML. And we have Niels here. So Niels, give us a little bit of an overview about what's next, what UnionML is, and obviously where you're going to speak with regards to MLOps world. So give us the scope.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. Hi, everyone. I'm Niels. Yeah, I'll be presenting at the MLOps World Conference in Toronto next week on the UnionML project that I presented on maybe a few weeks back here on this Flyte OSS sync. So really, I'll talk kind of quite at a high level at first of about UnionML and kind of dive into what the code looks like since everyone wants to see the code. But yeah, just to give you a summary, really the nugget of inspiration here was what does an interface look like that helps people build and deploy models from an MLOps perspective. So there are a lot of machine learning frameworks out there, a lot of data frameworks out there. And really, as someone who really likes kind of to think about the ergonomics and the HCI component of machine learning, how do we make developers more productive? What does that interface look like? And the inspiration really here was to make an analogy. You have the HTTP protocol and then you have HTTP methods which standardize what you can do with that protocol. In machine learning, I think we're converging and to common abstractions like fit, train, evaluate, predict. So really this project is centered around what does that interface look like? Not just from a theoretical perspective, but something that actually works and something that people can use. So this is kind of like building off of Flyte and all the cool stuff we've built on top of it, and is a machine learning focused meta SDK or like higher level SDK for machine learning.
Great. So you would say data scientists would feel very comfortable using that high level framework?
That's the goal. We're going to have a call to action in the conference itself. Details will be upcoming there. But yeah, we really want to build a community around this and, iterate on it, not just based on our opinions, but everyone else's opinions and thoughts on how to actually do this.
Awesome, great. Okay, there's a lot more. Let's do a next topic here that is about the VS Code extension. Matthew, we have you guys working on that VS Code extension. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the VS Code extension and then give us maybe a little bit of outlook about, I think the next meetup where we have you talk about a different topic.
Yeah, so Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So really happy to be here. Thanks for having us. I think Jake's here as well, but just happy to share our work here on this extension. Basically, our thought process behind this was, Flyte is pretty easy to use and adds a lot of nice features, but there can be some friction just getting things up initially. If you're not experienced, you haven't used the tools in the command line. Maybe your data scientists in your organization want these features, but they don't know just quite all the command line copy paste they need to do to get into production. And so we just sort of automate that process through the sort of getting started guide of, I need to set up Docker to push to here. I need to set up this registration step. I need to serialize my workflow, and then I need to push it. And so we just tick those sort of 3 basic steps, configure my Docker, push to here, configure or do my serialization, and then register my workflow. And then we also just add a little step to initialize a new workflow if you're starting from scratch. And so we put those 3 things into just the command palette of Visual Studio Code. So our data scientists can just hit Control-Shift-B, initialize workflow, get a workflow from nothing, and then Control-Shift-P again, register workflow, select that workflow, select the project, select the domain of that project, and then just kick off automation that when it finishes, it'll give you a little link. You can go to that web page and bring up the Flyte console. You'll see your workflow there, and you can go ahead and run it. So that's really exciting stuff that we're happy to share. Jake Nyer and I worked on that. Happy to share that, coming mostly from StrideWorks. And then now for next week or next presentation, I guess in 2 weeks, I'm also happy to share something that I've been working on to make essentially an SDK for JavaScript workflows. So if you decide that Python is not really your speed, or you prefer to work with JavaScript and you really love TensorFlow.js, maybe you can create, register, and serialize JavaScript workflows, and then use them just the same as you might with, say, FlyteKit in Python.
Awesome. Very cool. We're looking forward to the community sync in 2 weeks. And I think for everyone else here, don't forget to start the repo. So super excited about that VS Code extension. Let's take a look at the upcoming conferences. I think we spoke about 2 already. Sandra, if you could move forward, 1 back. So we have the Kubernetes Community Days in Chennai. So you're going to see Samita there. She's going to talk about obviously everything Flyte, not just MLOps with Flyte, but you can reach out to her and learn a whole lot about our Flyte experience, and specifically using getting machine learning models into inference, into production. It's going to be very interesting to see that. So that's on June 4th. And we heard Niels earlier talk about the MLOps world in Canada. So he's going to talk and show, I don't know if he's going to talk, Niels, but we're going to definitely present and have contributions about Union ML. So I think Union ML is really, for us here, a highlight of the month. And I feel like, coming from a data science background, I'm super excited about Union ML. I'm going to say this a few more times in the future. All right, let's go forward and look at the office hours. We have Haitham, 7:30 a.m. We have Katrina there, who's taking the midday. And of course, Ketan is taking the late night. I feel like it's pretty late night. So if you want to attend, it would be awesome to have you attend, ask questions. You can ask the Flyte maintainers anything in those office hours. So I think it's super great to have them. And I want to say thank you to all of the 3 who are actually hosting those office hours. Okay. With that, the upcoming sync, Matthew spoke about the JavaScript SDK for Flyte. There are a few more links in here about how to sign up to the community sync. You can also find our YouTube channel and the newsletter. And I also want to make sure we should put in the GitHub repo for Flyte as well. And don't forget to start that one. So we're really happy if we get your stars as well, or developers and contributor stars who haven't started so far. Next, Ketan. So let's talk about the roadmap, and you have a few things to share with us.
Yeah, a few things. I decided to do the the roadmap a little differently. This time, I wanted to explain all the things that are in progress. These are only the things that I know of or I probably remember. If I missed somebody, I'm sorry, that was not the intention. So please let me know. If I can add your name, I would love to know what you guys are working on. But I know Flyte Decks has been a very, very highly requested feature, and we are it has been merged in FlyteKit, but in Flyte Console, it's going to be part of this month, and that's one of the things that Union AI has been working on, and we're looking forward to what people can do with it. I think I just got a brief demo of it, and it's pretty awesome. So thank you. And continuing with all the improvements in streamlining FlyteKit and how to register and load, there is last or a month and a half ago, we released PyFlyte Run, which allowed you to run a script immediately without thinking about serializing, registering, and so on. But for larger repos, registration is still the preferred way. So PyFlyte register instead of Flyte CLI register and PyFlyte serialize, all of that is going to get condensed into PyFlyte register. And this is, again, Union AI is working on this part. And we would love to make sure that all of you guys know what's happening in PyFlyte register. Try it out, give us comments. This has been a very requested feature, not only by Union AI and Spotify, a few other companies like Tesla and Shopify and etc. It's human in the loop workflows. That means if you are running a workflow and you want to suddenly pause the workflow, wait for an external signal like an approval or pass some data, maybe you're doing labeling, etc. That will now be supported with Flyte, and we are working on that with Spotify. There's a huge use case in Spotify as well. Pachama has been slowly chugging along and adding Flyte plus Dask integration. They have it working internally. They will be open sourcing it at some point. I'm trying to get a date. I don't know exactly the date when they'll open source, but I think it's awesome, potentially an awesome integration. So Dask is a Python library that allows you to scale out Python computations, and Flyte will manage the cluster. So that's the best of both worlds. So a user can get a serverless experience while using Dask. The next one is dbt plugin. I think this has been stale for a little bit, so I'm following up with Gojek, but the plugin works. There's like a minor couple things, and then we'll get merged. And this is dbt, so you can run dbt pipelines within Flyte. Another one is Flyte on Azure. I just got an update today. Black Shark, Nick and team, actually Steph from Black Shark, had it working on Azure. They found issues with the FSPec library, so they actually rebuilt the data layer. And I think Helsing.ai is another one that's working with them. Flyte plus ylogs. This is if you want to get more more visualizations and visibility into data distributions, etc. So that's where ylogs is working on this part. We are working on a bunch of different ML type support, starting with NumPy, and then you'll see more. And after a couple of them, we'll probably open it up just for everybody in the community to add support for different ML types like TF Tensor, etc. We are also working on Flyte plus Onyx, so that you don't have to really think about how models move. This may take a little longer, but still thinking about the extremely good experience that is right for the users. Propeller performance. This is always a back-burning thread that we have. We keep on working on parts of it. We've not been focusing as much from all our folks, but recently Union AI and Spotify has been diving deep and improving things. Spotify has been running more than 5 million workflows a month. So yeah, it's on one cluster. So it's getting really, really hot. So we're trying to make sure that it keeps on scaling. Lyft has been doing something fantastic, multi-architecture support for ARM, x86, etc. So this is extremely useful for reducing cost. AWS, if you are an AWS shop, they have Graviton support, which is their ARM-based self-fabricated dies. these have about 1/4 the cost of a regular on-demand instance. So Lyft is adding it to the workflow as a primitive, so you can actually just target a workflow to go onto an ARM machine without really doing any much changes. Of course, you have to build the container slightly differently, but it's not much. And when we are working a lot on Flyte console, and I think you'll hear it in a little bit. Next one. So we also wanted to say that we are kicking off a few different projects, and if you guys are interested in collaborating, contributing, getting together, discussing more, please join in one of these projects. I think eventually these will become SIGs, like folks who are interested in leading some specific SIGs. But there has been some interest in Flyte and Data Hub integration across different companies. There is a channel for this, and even in the Data Hub side, there's some work, and Volt is leading the charge, and we are just helping. Union.ai is helping them, and JPMC actually has a prototype for this, and so all of them are coming together, and that's fantastic to see in a community. Similarly, there has been a heavy amount of interest in Flyte plus Ray integration, and Ray is this, again, just like Dask, it's a way to scale out Python processing, slightly different from Dask, so in terms of the architecture, but they suffer from the same problem that you have to first create a cluster, just like Spark and so on. With Flyte, we are trying to bridge that gap, make it possible that all these clusters are automatically created, but we are also trying to create a new thing where you can reuse the same created cluster across multiple workflows, and this will lay down the foundation for reusing pods and Spark clusters and whatever in the future. So that amortizes the cost of running the workflow and bringing up the ephemeral clusters multiple times. Yeah, and then we would love contributions on multiple different things. There are few of these are issues already filed by people. A few of them will probably be hosting a hackathon or something. Yeah, one thing that I wanted to do is creating a prioritization list that few folks can, vote on or talk about and help us prioritize at Union or across the community. And in the past, though, prioritization lists don't always get a lot of different opinions. It's always important to get the community involved in this sort of stuff. So please let me know if you have ideas of how we can do this that would get the most people to participate. And we'll start off with something, but we would love more participation in that. That's it. So those are the two things. We'll try to do this every now and then instead of talking about immediately what's happening in the next 2 weeks. We are going to talk about these are the big things, items that we're working on. And you'll see lots of new interesting stuff and how folks are contributing. So if you want to contribute, it's an open source project. Just contribute. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, thanks a lot. Cool. I think that's great. Looking forward to the Ray project as a former Spark user. I think this is super interesting as well. So let's see what comes out of that.